Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us again this week on Realty Check, our local Las Vegas real estate information channel where you guys can find out what's going on in real estate from the professionals. So today on our show, well, before I get into that, if you guys are watching today is the 28th of October. We're having a trunk or treat at our office. You're welcome to come down. Free. We're going to have candy, food trucks, a haunted house, all kinds of fun stuff. 2230 Corporate Circle, the Keller Williams office, Suite 250 will be set up in the parking lot. We hope to see you there. And today on our show, this show's called Coaching Corner. So we're going to talk about real estate coaching and coaching in general and what that does, what that means, how it can benefit you, what coaching is for, and it's a very interesting topic, interesting subject that many people that not only in the real estate industry, but many people out there can benefit from. So we have a great guest with us today, Sharon Swanton with Affinity Solutions. She is a real estate coach, and Sharon is going to share with us some knowledge and some information about real estate coaching and what it's all about and the type of things that can be addressed. So Sharon, tell us a little bit about you and your background and how this all got started.
Okay, well, I've been in real estate for just under 45 years, and I started doing a variation of this about 30 years ago. So I started training, working a lot with new agents, and then it morphed into working with experienced senior agents who wanted to make as much money as they could and still have a life.
Right.
Because that's the problem.
That is the problem in real estate.
It is. And so that started the coaching practice, which continues today. I also coach other people. My clients primarily are self-employed people. Sometimes they own their own businesses. Sometimes they're salespeople. Real estate, obviously, is the place where I have the most expertise, although the problems that people encounter are pretty universal.
Yes.
They're pretty universal.
Yes. And what are a lot of those problems? Like people that are running their own business or in sales or, of course, in real estate, what are some of these problems that people run into that you see commonly where they're struggling with their business because of what's going on kind of in their head?
Well, yeah, it's all in their head, actually.
Right.
A good example, I had a text this morning from somebody that I'm coaching. She's new. She's been with me about a month. She's not in real estate, but she is in sales.
Okay.
And she's struggling. She's making big moves. She's got things going on with her children and a boyfriend. So she texts me early in the morning, and she's telling me that she's taking the rest of the week off because she's so stressed. Now, understand what she's stressed about is money. Mm-hmm. So I wrote back and I said, seems to me that if what you're stressed about is money, taking time off is probably counterproductive. Right. And what you need to do is work through the stress and instead of going home and focusing on your anxiety.
Right.
But that's what a lot of people do. Oh, I'm so stressed out. Oh, I had this terrible transaction. The clients hate me. I hate them. It was so I'm going to go home for a week.
Right.
Not a good plan because you're putting your focus where you don't want it to be. Right. So when you focus on the problems or you focus on what's stressing you out, that just creates more of it.
Right.
What you really need to do is move away from it and then go back after you have a little distance and go, okay, what was really going on there? And how was I contributing to the problem? Because we always are.
Right.
We are always contributing to our own problem, and most of it is mindset. And mindset comes out of our unconscious mind, what Keller Williams would call the drunk monkey. But it's really your unconscious mind. And there's been a lot of research done since I first started doing this work. When I first started doing it, it was kind of a new concept. It came from a guy named Doug Yeaman, who has a company called Quantum Management. Okay. And that's where I started training. And that's where I first got introduced to the concept of unconscious assumptions.
Okay.
Now, how he knew it, I'll never know. But since then, especially in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of research done on unconscious assumptions and how our unconscious manages us in ways we don't even know. We're not aware of it at all because the unconscious mind doesn't talk to the conscious mind. They don't talk to each other.
Right.
So your unconscious mind, the assumptions in your unconscious mind are formed primarily between the ages of 4 and 7.
Wow.
So when you're very young. And what they are, They are decisions that you made about yourself or other people at that age. So if you think about some of the things that go on when you're, for example, 4 years old, some of my favorite people are 3-year-old boys. They're not very verbal, but they are action figures.
Right.
They just go do things.
Right.
They don't think about whether they can or not. They don't know they're little. They just go do stuff.
Right.
But here's what happens. 2 things happen, actually. One is mom finds them climbing on the cabinets to get to something at the top of the refrigerator and goes, oh my God, don't do that. You'll get hurt. Boy goes, oh gosh, I guess I'm not supposed to explore. I guess I'm not supposed to do these kinds of things. Forgets about it. Then the other thing that happens is they'll try to open a door that's too heavy. 4-year-olds trying to open a heavy door, push, the kind that swing, and goes, oh, I'm not strong enough. Doesn't think the door's too heavy. That's not how we work. We don't think of it as being a problem. We think of it as being us. And so these are the things. We make decisions about money. We make decisions about relationships. We make decisions about ourselves. And we make all of those decisions between the ages of 4 and 7. And then around the age of 8, we forget. The psychologists call it adolescent amnesia, even though you're not an adolescent at that age.
Right.
We forget about it. And then it shows up later. So it'll show up as, for example, with myself. I did well in real estate. It's been good to me all the years I've been in it. And I was making about $80,000 a year, and I was sitting in an awards celebration for RE/MAX. And RE/MAX had this thing called the 100% Club, which is what you got into if you made $100,000 a year. So I'm sitting there with my husband, and I'm thinking, I wonder what it would be like to make $100,000 a year. That's all. Just thought about it.
Right.
The next year I made $135,000. Now, I'm not going to say I didn't make changes, because I did. I hired an assistant, and I did some other things. However, it was taking myself from being under $100,000 in my mind to being over $100,000 that really was the important change that occurred.
Right.
And that happens with everybody.
Yeah, actually, so when you think about it, when you envision it, when you put yourself in that, it actually helps you get there.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct, because you have to see yourself.
You have to see yourself doing it.
You have to see yourself doing it, and you have to experience the emotions of doing it, because your unconscious assumptions will show up as feelings. Oh, my gut tells me that's not a good idea. Well, now wait a minute. Where is that really coming from? Because maybe it is a good idea,
Right.
but you have some experience in your past that taught you, for example, climbing up to get to something wasn't a good idea. It may be coming from there. It may not. So there are objective, in reality, things to be afraid of. So I'm not saying that it's not, but it may be. So it's always, for me, worth looking at. I'll always go, oh, well, tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
And some people, I feel, and I've seen that some people will hold themselves back from success because even though they want it, they don't believe that they'll ever actually have it, or that they could actually have it, or even that they deserve it.
All of those.
All of those, right?
Yes. So the one, I don't like saying, what do they call that? Where you say positive statements.
Affirmations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think they're good to a point, but if you're going to do affirmations, then you have to do the next part, which is visualizing yourself actually doing what you're talking about and having the feelings of doing what you're talking about, because it's the feelings that cement the change.
Right.
So the idea of to just sit there and say, I am a wonderful person, I have no fear, I make all this, to just do that routinely without actually connecting to the feelings of it isn't really effective. But what is effective is imagination. That's how I found out that I was doing this. Years and years ago, I was homesick and I was watching a TV show and they were talking about Shakti Gawain. I don't know if you know who she is.
I don't know who that is.
Long time ago. She was one of the first people to talk about visualization.
Okay.
And it was a brand new concept at the time. This was a long time ago. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, I've been doing that for a long time. And it was things like I was living in San Diego with my son, and I thought I would like to live in Del Mar, which is a very nice suburb of San Diego, having absolutely no reason to think that I could ever get there. And a few years later, I found myself living in Del Mar and working in an office overlooking the ocean.
Right.
And to me, it didn't feel like I had planned it at all.
Right.
Because what your unconscious mind will do is if you say that, it'll pick up on little opportunities here and there. and then you have the outcome, and it feels effortless.
Yeah.
It's actually you doing it.
That is so true. I am guilty of being a daydreamer. Always
Good.
been a daydreamer.
That's good.
But I do. There's many a times in my life where I can look back where I've dreamt about or daydreamed or visualized just in my head, just going off because that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
And then later on, that becoming reality.
Yeah.
It's like it happened. And I'm in I'm in the Bold coaching program now, which I've done a few times prior in the past. And in that, it's not a coaching like having a coach. It's like a training course program.
Right.
It is a few times in that they have a visualization exercise during that, and you basically daydream. You write this story that you want, and many times in the past, that story that we did this exercise, we had to write that story. And most of that story had come true later.
Yep.
So it is very amazing how that works, right?
Well, it almost seems magical.
It is magical. It is magical.
Exactly.
It is magical. What we're capable of, we have no idea.
That's right.
Yes.
That's absolutely right. And when it works the opposite way, it's the same thing. It also seems magical. Why can't I do this? I know what I want to do. I've made this plan. I've got it. I know what I need to do. In fact, almost every realtor I've ever talked to will say, well, I know what I need to do. I just don't do it.
Right.
And so then it becomes, I have a new client who's saying that to me right now. So then it becomes a matter of figuring out, okay, so where is it in your unconscious mind that you've made a decision that you're not supposed to do that? What is it that happened that made you decide that? And very often, all it takes to figure it out is at the right time. So timing is kind of crucial in this. But at the right time saying, okay, well, when is the first time you ever remember somebody saying that to you? And then what will happen often is somebody will go, oh, well, I don't know if it's relevant, but this happened, okay? And so that starts us on a string to figure out what it is that's showing up that's getting in the way. Because the unconscious mind and the conscious mind don't talk to each other. So you can't think about it. Well, I'm going to think my way through it. It doesn't work. You actually have to talk to yourself.
Oh.
That's actually what works. That's why writing your story works so well, because first of all, you're doing it, you're writing it, and it's coming out of you. And so then manifesting it is really just a matter of allowing it, not interfering with it.
Right.
Being able to just let it be.
Most people's problems, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that most people's problems in life, in business, in everything, are because they stand in their own way.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, we get in our own way more than anybody else ever does. But most of it does come from unconscious assumptions that are interfering with us getting what we want. And your daydreaming is exactly what works. Right. Daydreaming is exactly what works. Now, once you get to our age and you're trying to figure out why you can't get where you want to go, then really a lot of what I do is that. It's about identifying what are the barriers and obstacles, because what happens when we're presented with a barrier or an obstacle, we don't look around it, we look at it. It gets right in our face, we can't see over it, under, around, or through, so we focus on the barrier, which only creates more barrier.
Right.
Right? So what I do largely is in a way to distract from that. Okay, I understand that's the issue. Let's figure out what else is going on. Also, the other part of my coaching that's a little bit different from other people is I know that if you're having a problem in one area, you probably are having a problem in another area. So life and career management is really about looking at what you want to accomplish in your career, but also what's going on in your life.
Right.
What's showing up there and because they transact with one another. That's an odd way to put it, but that is what they do.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's just the same concept of, like, usually if you have a cluttered home or your living area, your bedroom is super cluttered, your mind is usually super cluttered as well, because it's something that's coming out in the physical of what's going on in your head.
Yeah, you're manifesting it.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
And it also can be relationship problems. So real estate in particular is a relationships business.
It is.
That's primarily what we do. It's not really about understanding all the basics and how to write a contract, and all that stuff is important. I don't want to diminish it, but really what we're in is the relationships business. And that's why I don't worry too much about the iBuyers and all that stuff. In fact, my recent experience with the iBuyers is that they're making us angry because they mistreat us, you know. You call to get information on a listing and they won't tell you anything, which is frankly unnecessary. You can even tell a call center whether or not you have an offer. I mean, so the people who are running those corporations don't really understand our business. And our business is a relationships business. Now, maybe they'll figure out a way to get in a relationship with a corporation, but I doubt it. I mean, I worked in one. That's what brought me to real estate. So if you focus on the right relationships, your business is fine.
Absolutely. I mean, you can train a script, you can train a process, you can train a step-by-step procedure, but you can't train someone to care.
No, you can't. You can't
train someone to care, and that's where the difference is having a good realtor. That realtor will actually care about you, your situation, and your outcome, because they're human, and it's the human emotion that's natural. When something becomes too transactional, the other person doesn't care about what's going on with you, then you're going to have that non-caring experience. And I, as a realtor, I do struggle with that sometimes because I care sometimes too much, you know.
So say more about that.
So, you know, sometimes I care about situations that I cannot control. So, for instance, like a listing that, you know, the price, and we all know, when it comes down to listings and when it comes down to a listing on the market, it's price, it's location, visibility, and accessibility. So visibility is something I can control. That's the marketing. I can control the marketing, and I do a very good job at that. So I know that that's being taken care of. Price can be controlled if I have the right conversations with the sellers. But the location and the accessibility, sometimes that can be something I can work with the sellers, but sometimes those are things that are out of my control. Or the way, you know, the way the home shows, you know, sometimes the people don't have the budget to do whatever needs to be done. Or some homes just have a wonky floor plan that's not attractive. There's not much you can do about that. Or it's near a freeway or something like that. There's things that are out of our control. But when I see like the listing not getting the activity or the lowball offers come in, I tend to internalize that and feel so horrible about myself for it not going through. I know that it's out of my control, but I feel so awful for the family, for what's going on in their life of it not, you know, this not working out the way that I had hoped it would. And so many times, you know, we think our price is right, we think everything's good. And the market, we say it all the time, the market determines the price, they determine everything. And the market, the showings start and just the feedback's not good, there's complaints after, and it's not moving. That, you know, and that's one of the things I struggle with, is I take that in, is like, what can I do better? I actually find myself sometimes losing sleep over it, like what can I do to get this home sold? What can I do this? Trying to get creative. And that's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when it's internalized.
Well, it's hard on you.
Yeah.
It's hard on you. It's part of what makes you a good realtor. It's part of why you do such a great job with your clients and why you have so much repeat and referral business. So that's the upside. The downside is that you are internalizing something that you don't have any control over, because the reality is, and you already know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the reality is that location, you can only deal with, if you've got location, condition, price, and terms, right? Accessibility, and what was the other thing?
Visibility.
Yeah, visibility. Okay. You've got all those things in place, but location is an issue. Really, the only way you can deal with location is by adjusting the price. That's really your only choice. And then the problem you have is, if this is a client who needs the money from this sale for whatever reason, adjusting the price is a bitter pill.
Yes.
And yet, on the other side, if you don't adjust the price and the property doesn't sell, that's going to be worse.
Because they'll find themselves chasing the market, especially in a market where we're in right now, where there is a shift and a slowdown and everything like that. You know, if we don't, if we don't address the issue quickly,
Yes.
they find themselves chasing the market, and it puts them in a worse situation.
Exactly. So I think for you, if you'll focus on the end result instead of on the local moment, then you won't stress so much.
Yeah.
Then you'll go, okay, wait a minute, I got it. My job is really to get them out of this house.
Yeah.
So I will take a deep breath and sit down and have the hard conversation about the fact that the only thing we have left to adjust, because all the other things are in place, is the price.
Right.
And that's a hard conversation to have with people when they're struggling financially.
Oh, I know.
But that
Yeah.
is what you need to do.
Yeah,
Because-
absolutely.
And I would not try to get you to stop losing sleep. I actually think that's part of what makes you a very, very good agent.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you take it to that point. But I would also invite you to have a conversation with yourself that goes, okay, wait a minute. I don't want to have this conversation with them, because that's really what the resistance is you don't want to sit down and tell them, hey, guess what, we're not going to get the kind of money we thought.
Yeah.
And especially if we're part of the process of pricing it, then we really don't want to have the conversation. But if we really think about what our job is really to get them out of that house and on to the next thing, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you focus on the end result rather than on the local problem, you can move out of that feeling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. And it is so, when it comes to like the struggles that we have in our day-to-day business, it's so just understanding that sometimes our worst enemy is between our ears, right? So,
Almost always.
between our own ears. So it's like sometimes I'll find myself telling myself like, oh my gosh, you're an awful realtor. Like, why is this house not selling?
And I'm going to be going, stop that right now. Cut that off. Don't talk to yourself that way.
And I do that, and there's been times in the past where I had, for instance, a couple years ago, I had this home that was listed, and the sellers were so firm, they didn't want to change the price. And I felt like I'm just going to have to figure out what to do to sell the house at this price that they want. And I did. Gosh, I tried everything. And it just wouldn't happen. Where I failed so bad is I was too, they kept on telling me they were firm on that price. I was too intimidated, and I let myself be intimidated enough never to have that conversation with them, where I felt very strongly that if we did this adjustment, and I had a number in mind, if we did this adjustment, we could get the house sold at that price. But I was too scared to have that conversation with them. And what happened is I failed. So the listing expired. I did not end up selling it. And another agent that I know very well ended up listing the home at the price that needed to be listed. So I was like, he was not too scared to have that conversation with them, and it sold. So that was a total failure. And because of that, now I do have the price reduction conversations, whether I want to or not. But it's hard. That's not easy.
But what you're speaking about is the power of fear.
Right.
Fear is a very powerful emotion, and it stops us from doing a lot of things that we know that we should do. Excuse me. So identifying the source of that fear becomes really important. And doing it now is irrelevant, because you have figured out that it doesn't matter how scared you are, you got to have the conversation.
Right. If I don't, somebody else will.
Well, exactly right.
Yes.
And then they'll get the result that you should have gotten, which is really frustrating.
Right.
I don't like the word fail very much. I do like the word mistake a lot better.
Yeah.
Because there's very little in life we actually fail at. If you think about it, the ultimate failure is death. So there's very little that we actually fail at. What happens is that in the process of learning something, we make mistakes. And if you've ever tried to learn to do anything new, I don't care what it is, ride a skateboard, go surfing, roller skate, even learn to work out. There are ways to work out that are correct, that'll work, and there are ways to work out that won't accomplish anything at all, except you feeling tired and having sore muscles, right?
Right.
Okay. So in the process of learning how to do things correctly, we often do them incorrectly. Doesn't mean we failed. Simply means we haven't learned what we need to know yet.
Yes.
And that's really the place I come from. My assumption is, years ago I was in therapy for a long time, in my 20s, undoing what my lovely parents, who didn't mean anything by it. They did the best they could, right?
Right.
But undoing what they did, right?
Right.
And I did that because I had a son and I didn't want to do to him what had been done to me. So I stayed in therapy for a long time.
So back to mindset. So mindset, not only in business, like for our watchers out there and people that are like looking and listening, and I know our audience has actually grown to be a lot of the real estate community, which is great, but we do have a lot of consumers that watch as well, and are looking to find out information about real estate and things that are going on in the real estate market from the professionals, of course.
Sure.
So for people out there, what are some good tips that you can give them on getting their mindset in the right place and what they can do if they're feeling like their own mind is stepping in their way of success in anything
Right.
that you're doing?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is doing what you did, which is to visualize the outcome you want and not look at the obstacles and barriers that are in the way, but look at what is the outcome that you want. And looking at that, what are the steps that you need to take in order to accomplish that? And it's not so much about writing down a business plan or goal or any of those things. It's more about what it is that I want, how will I feel when I get there, which is a really important part. And then looking at, okay, what do I need to do? And what we tend to want to do is eat the whole cake in one bite.
Yeah.
Which means we choke on it, right? It doesn't work. So then what would be the first little step I could take in that direction? What would be the next little step I could take in that direction? Do I need to talk to somebody and learn more about what I'm trying to achieve? Because maybe I just don't know enough. Most of the time, if we're not making a decision, it's because we don't have enough information. Because when we have enough information, then we make decisions relatively easily. So those kinds of steps will get people where they want to go. Sometimes you need a coach, because what I say is you have the answers, I have the questions.
Right.
What I'm good at doing is asking the questions.
Yes.
To get you where you want to go.
Well, it's like if you have a destination, and whether that destination be success in your career, or maybe your destination is home ownership, or maybe your destination is getting to another city where you want to be in. So many things. I feel like every person walking the earth has a destination where they want to be at.
Yeah.
So whatever that destination is, you know the end, you know the destination where you want to be, or most people do, but it's like the path to get there is all dark.
It's
So
obscured. Yeah.
Obscured. So sometimes all you need is someone to just light that path
Shine a
for you
light on
and
it.
show you the steps.
Yep.
And once that path's lit, you know exactly what to do. You know where to go. It's not always, step by step, someone needs to give me an instruction manual, but do exactly what you do and ask the right questions that'll just start lighting up that path. And once that path is lit, you know how to get there. This is in your heart. It's your dream. You know how to get there. You just need someone to light the path for you. And that's why a lot of people need a coach, is someone that can look at it from the outside and say, how are we going to light this path?
That's right. And this is true in all your relationships, by the way, even with your kids and with your spouse, and with brothers and sisters. All of the issues that come up for us as obstacles and barriers, it can be managed once we stop looking at the obstacle and barrier and start looking at where we want to go.
Right. Absolutely. And for people right now, getting back to real estate coaching and realtors in general, our market's shifting.
Yep.
So
Yes,
some
it is.
realtors that have been in the business for a short time,
Yes.
I feel like this is the hardest thing for them to handle, because they've been in this, they've got the taste of what it's really like to be successful, and they thought this was easy. Because this year,
It was.
even though we've been working very hard, it's been easy to sell homes. Everybody wants to buy. Now that we're in a shift and we're seeing the slowdown, now we're facing, I've been in this before because I've been in, for a few years, and I know, gosh, you've been in this
Long time.
a long time. So you've been in this many times.
Yep.
This is where it gets real.
Yes,
This
it
is
is.
the spot where it gets real. And I feel like people, and I'm seeing them, I'm seeing some agents just panic. Like, what do I do? What's going on? This isn't what's happening here. And everyone's doomsdaying it.
So here's the thing I say.
Yeah.
Just about the time you figure out how to work the market, it shifts.
Yes,
And just about the time you figure out how to work that market, it shifts again.
of course.
And it keeps doing that, and it never goes back to the place where it was originally. It's always slightly off. So what happens is you have to keep learning. Top producers transition quickly.
You have to.
Real fast. They pivot very
Yes.
quickly. There are people in our business who really don't need the money. They generally get out when there's a change because they can't change quickly enough. And there's a group in the middle who really can benefit, but what you have to do is quit hanging on to the past, let go of that, and go, okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do today? I know what I did before, but that's not working anymore, so now I have to learn a new dance. And the ability to learn the new dance steps quickly is what allows you to adjust to the new market.
Right.
Also, burnout occurs every 5 to 7 years, my opinion.
Yes.
And it's because you get tired of learning the new dance. And you go, stop. Stop the world. I want to get off. I don't want to do this anymore. For me, the way I noticed that was happening to me is when I would open the Sunday paper and go into the classifieds just to see what kind of jobs were available. Not that I was going to look for one, right? But I caught myself doing that. What are you telling yourself here?
Once we become realtors, we become unemployable. You know
We are
that, right?
unemployed. Yeah, exactly. We are always unemployed.
We are unemployable.
Yeah.
Once we learn how to do what we do,
Yeah.
we would never make a good employee again.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I chopped up my resume a while ago. It's done.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
But yes, no, that is, and I experienced that as well. You know, sometimes it's just so, you know, things can get so overwhelming. So
Yeah.
I definitely understand that, and that's where people are struggling, and if people are struggling in their business, you're taking new clients?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I have some slots. I don't have as many as I used to.
That's
thankfully.
good.
I'm grateful for that.
That's a good
Thank
thing.
you very much.
Yes.
But yes,
Yes.
I would be glad to talk to anybody. I'm glad to talk to anybody about whether or not working with me would actually help.
So you'll
And
do a consultation.
That's a consultation. It doesn't cost anything. You can call me on the phone and we can spend usually 30 minutes to an hour and we can figure out whether or not I can help.
Okay. And are you taking just realtors, or do you take anybody?
My newest clients aren't realtors.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they are in other walks. I have a guy who's a developer out of LA. I have somebody she's in sales, but she's in insurance sales.
Yeah.
So, I have people in different walks of life.
And I think that coaching, having a coach, a business coach in anything that you do will definitely show changes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Show
Absolutely.
changes, show results.
And, I usually require a 90-day commitment because in my experience, it'll take about 90 days for me to be able to help someone produce a result. But within 90 days, you'll know whether or not working with me makes sense for you.
Yeah.
You'll know pretty quickly.
It's usually not a one-shot, one-call.
No, it's not. Very little in life is, if you think about it.
Yes, nothing that is worth anything will come quickly.
That's right.
So you
That's right.
definitely have to work for it. It takes some effort, but I do think that it's a great idea to help guide people. And the great news is here on our show, you're going to be back.
I am.
So Sharon is going to be a regular on our show, and we're going to be doing these shows every so often. I think we have it planned every 45 days of doing a coaching corner where we're just going to talk about things that are going on. So I think it's going to be very helpful for people out there. You guys are going to get to know Sharon a lot. And Sharon, I love Sharon. She's a great person and very, very knowledgeable. So she is definitely somebody that you want to listen to when she talks. So.
And I really appreciate the opportunity to share it with more people. I really appreciate that, Trish.
I appreciate it. I see it as huge value. So you guys will definitely want to keep note when Sharon's on the show. Tune in. You will be able to work on yourselves. And if you want to get deeper into that, dive deeper into it, start seeing changes in your life and your business, call Sharon. She's can be reached at 702-289-1537. It's Affinity Solutions.
Yep.
And if you have any trouble reaching her, you can reach out to me to get a hold of Sharon. Yep. I'm always happy to help with that. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. You know how to get a hold of me. And if you're looking for something to do with your kids tonight, take them down to our trunk or treat. We're going to have a big event, and it's at our office. It's off of Green Valley Parkway in the 215-2230 Corporate Circle, Suite 250. Free event. We'll see you guys there. Hope to see you there, and we will see you next week on Realty Check.